from Rocky River, Ohio. Welcome on in. It is the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, and we got a lot to get to, baby. We got a whole lot to get to on this Thursday afternoon. The tournament is underway. You could, hang on to your brackets while we talk. Michigan State beating Mississippi State as we speak, 63-49, 5 minutes to go in the second half of the first game of the year. Just starting the second half, Duquesne leading BYU 40-30, 19 minutes to go. And then the game that probably many of you in the Northeast Ohio listening audience care about, number 14 Akron, right now tied with the 3 seed Creighton Blue Jays in the Midwest region. Actually, Creighton just took the lead, 31-29, 6:38 to go. Akron trying to pull the big upset from the local school that's in the mix here. I know my man Mikey McNuggets picked Creighton to win it all as the 3 seed. So hopefully Akron could pull the upset. It'll be a huge upset. But right now, all the lower seeded teams are playing well, especially Michigan State. I know it's an 8-9 game, so not much of a lower seed. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. The Bullpen, of course, is brought to you by Bet Rivers. And you can bet on all the games of the tourney. You can bet on all the Major League Baseball games that including, well, it's too late for the 6 a.m. game this morning between the Dodgers and Padres that finished, I think, 15-11 was the final. But Major League Baseball's full regular season starting a week from today. Obviously, we got the NBA, the NHL, whatever you're into. My man Monzo can give you some hockey tips. I never heard of 99.9% of the players at this point. But whatever you want, we've got you covered. Check out the Bet Rivers app. Check out the Bet Rivers website. It's really easy to navigate, and you can have a lot of fun. Gamble responsibly, of course. I'll be taking your calls, if you will. I say calls in air quotes because technically you're not calling, but you're joining me on a live stream, and something we've added this week. For those of you who maybe want to ask me a question and maybe get your voice out there as if it was the radio, but don't want to be on camera, you can join me. I tweeted out a link about 3-4 minutes ago. If you click on that link, you can get in the waiting room here, and then I'll bring you up. You have to be using Google Chrome or the Riverside app, but if you use Google Chrome, you're good to go. And if you want to join me and be on video, that's great. If you don't want to be on video and you just want me to hear your voice so you can ask a question, that's great too. If you're shy about all of that and you just want to ask your question kind of anonymously, the chat is up here on YouTube. So thanks to all who are in the chat right now. We'll get that going. So a lot to get to today. We'll keep you up to date on all the games right now. Obviously, just 3 games. Well, the 4th game has just started in the West region. They just got underway. Long Beach State and Arizona. One of the number 1 seeds, North Carolina, who's a big favorite, obviously over Wagner. They'll be playing about 45 minutes or so. So we'll keep an eye on all of this. Duquesne really starting to pull away from BYU in the second quarter. I don't know I forgot to look at what the point spread was on that game before the game. But then, and Akron right there, tied at 31 with 4 minutes to go against Creighton. Obviously, a lot going on with the Browns as well as free agency continues. The latest addition, Deontay Foreman. We talked, obviously, some about this earlier today and yesterday on the podcast. The more you think about it, it's very clear that the Browns have at least some level of concern that Nick Chubb will not be ready to go at the start of the season because Deontay Foreman's skill set is a lesser version of Nick Chubb. He is the same type of running back. Don't get it twisted. He is nowhere close to the talent that Nick Chubb is, but he's the same style of running back and could fill that role in a timeshare with Jerome Ford if Nick Chubb is not ready to go. This move leads me to believe that they think there's at least a possibility that the Browns would have to have Nick Chubb on the PUP list during training camp and potentially into the season. If you start the year on the PUP list, then you have to miss at least 4 games. So obviously that'd be disappointing. But in the grand scheme of things, after that injury last year, if Nick Chubb did start his season in week 5, that wouldn't be the worst thing at the end of the world. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the beginning of the world either. But we'll hope that Nick Chubb comes back. But this signing has to signal that there's at least a consideration that Nick Chubb will not be ready. Again, remember that Nick Chubb tore 2 ligaments in his knee. Obviously, it's a very not an easy thing to come back from. And so it's something we'll certainly be keeping an eye on the entire offseason. We'll be looking at Nick Chubb's recovery from a knee injury, which there's been no talk. I mean, before the free agency started, there was a lot of talk about the possibility of Nick Chubb getting cut, which I obviously thought was unlikely. And if it was going to happen, it would have happened. Thankfully, it did not. Or a redo of his contract, an extension, who knows? But there's been nothing on the Browns. While the Browns have been busy with re-signing guys and adding guys and restructuring contracts and extending contracts, there's been nothing on the Nick Chubb front. And we really haven't had any injuries on his update. I feel like the last time we saw him was when Joel Bitonio was doing a event in a school after the season. And he FaceTimed Nick Chubb in the middle, and that we haven't heard from Nick Chubb since. I mean, obviously, Nick Chubb's not a guy who's out there doing things in the media or putting out videos of himself doing them. The only Nick Chubb videos you ever see are him like lifting insane amount of weights, squats or deadlifts or whatever the hell he's doing. You don't see Nick Chubb out there partying or you don't see vacation videos. I'm sure he takes vacation, but he's not the type of guy that seems to put out videos like that. So anyway, so we'll wait to hear that. Obviously, we have gotten information on Deshaun Watson. He is expected to be throwing here this week or sometime soon. David Njoku has gotten together with him. It seems like his rehab from this unique shoulder injury is going very well. So we just got to hope that he's good to go. But with all the guys the Browns have signed at quarterback, it also leads you to believe that the Browns are not certain about Deshaun Watson's status. I think when you look at the fact that the Browns have 4 legitimate quarterbacks, or at least backup quarterbacks in the other 3 guys, and 5 legitimate running backs, and certainly 4 guys that can definitely you'd expect to be on the roster at running back, leads to a level of protection and concern for the starter at quarterback and running back. And that doesn't mean they're convinced Deshaun Watson or Nick Chubb won't be ready for week 1, or even that it's likely, but just that it's possible because they're both coming off serious injuries. And in Deshaun Watson's case, there's really no examples of recovery in this type of situation. So you don't know ultimately what it's going to take to get him back and get him back healthy, or how long it's going to take, or if there could be setbacks along the way. And that's why the Browns at those 2 positions, and for a different reason at defensive line, have gone to incredible lengths to build their depth. I mean, you may not like every player as part of that, but the Browns have tremendous depth at quarterback, running back, and defensive line. Now, defensive line, I don't think it's as much about, well, it's definitely not as anything about injury to your best player, because Myles Garrett, who was banged up at the end of the last year, by all accounts, is completely healthy heading into the offseason. But it is about a position where there do tend to be injuries, as we saw a bunch of guys go down last year on the defensive line. And so they thought it was important to have big depth, to have at least 8 startable, 8 guys that it could be at least rotational. And they do. They have 9 guys that I think are guaranteed roster spots, and 8 of those guys are guys that we know can play. We know can be at least rotational. And that's a great position to be in. The Browns' depth, while it gives you some pause because of what it might mean, is also a good thing. It's a good problem to have. If you have a running back that you can't keep because you have too many running backs, or a quarterback that you can't keep because you got too many, playable quarterbacks, that's a good problem to have. And that's the situation the Browns are in right now. All right, if you want to jump in with me again, I tweeted out the link. Go to my Twitter. It's the last thing I tweeted about 10, 12 minutes ago. You click on the link and you come into, and then I will invite you in. And again, you can come on camera, or you could just go audio only if you want to join me there. Whatever you want to do, we'll get you in. I'll get to some of the messages in the chat room in a second. and answer your questions there if that's easier for you, if you're a little embarrassed to be on camera or even get your voice out there. Each and every day of the men's and women's tournament during the first round, the second round, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, go in to the Bet Rivers app or on the website, make a 3 or more leg parlay, and you can earn a profit boost. This is really cool. It's a cool thing we're doing. So we got you covered on everything for the tourney here. So have some fun with it. Do it responsibly, but get a nice parlay going, and hopefully you'll hit it big. If you've already bet on the Bet Rivers app today, well, hopefully you took Michigan State because they're up by 15 with 1:27 to go. Duquesne leading BYU by 14 with about just under 16 minutes to go in the first half. Akron leads Creighton with 2:32 to go in the first by 2. And Long Beach State and Arizona leads 12-9, 6 minutes into that one. Let's take some calls or some messages here in the chat. Let's go back to the beginning. Jay sends a message in the chat here. It says, Bull, I'm a huge fan, but I never make it to the live shows. I listen to Stern every day till UCSS starts. Do you do the same? Baba Booey. Howard Stern. I could say that word, but I'm not going to say it, Jay. I'm a cursor, and so I curse sometimes on the podcast and the show. In fact, on the TV show today, I dropped an F-bomb. But I don't curse just to curse. And even though it's not a curse word, I'm going to pass on that word. Baba Booey. I am a big Stern fan. I don't love him as much as I did. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with Howard Stern. Obsessed. In fact, when I was in my early 20s, before I went back to college and started down my current career path, I was working in my early 20s as just a gopher, basically. I was working at an oil company, and I would go take care of the mail, and I would go to make bank deposits, and I'd pick up lunch for the mucky muck higher employees than me. And I would base my schedule around Stern, because in those days he was on terrestrial radio, and he'd do like a 50-minute segment, and then he'd take like a 10-minute break. So I would have all my stuff like as soon as he went to break, I'd go in the building, I'd get the mail ready, I'd get the banking ready, I'd get in my car, I'd drive to wherever I was going first, post office or bank, and I'd listen to an entire Stern segment. The second he went to break, the second he hinted that he was going to break, I would run into the bank, drive to the post office, which was close by, and then get myself a bagel with lox and cream cheese from the bagel store, and then sit in the car again to listen to the rest before I had to do another errand. I admit it, I was milking the clock, but Stern was my life. Now I do like the interviews, and Howard's still great, and I still appreciate him, but I don't like the show as much. I really only like the interviews. I think the rest of the team is much weaker than it used to be. Still like Gary. I like John Hine. Can't stand Ronnie. Can't stand Benji. JD seems like a nice guy, but he's very annoying on the air. So their extra guys are mostly not funny. The Sal and Richard, I like Richard, but I find the phony phone calls they do to be not funny at all. Which, listen, those guys are doing great, and they're more successful. Howard's obviously, listen, I can't say about his career. He's my idol. I love the guy, but give my honest opinion. Maybe they'll make fun of me. It would be an honor if they did. Chris sends a message. His message is, wonder why they don't call travels an attorney. I mean, do they call travels anywhere in basketball anymore? Maybe in high school. They don't call travels in the NBA. I don't know. I don't worry about it. I'm not. I only really get worked up about officiating in the NFL. Baseball, they mostly do a good job. It's an easier sport to kind of deal with from an official standpoint. Basketball, I don't care enough during the regular season. But Chris says he's watching the Michigan State, Mississippi State game. There have been numerous missed calls on both ends. All right, there you go. He also says he tried to watch the Cleveland Browns Daily podcast. It was completely lame. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but we won't be lame here. Joel says, Bull, what up? Thank you, Chris. Big fan. Can't always make it. Sometimes watch later. Listen, if you can't watch live, I get it. I appreciate the support. I really do. Today is the 2-year anniversary of me announcing that I was leaving the Fan. I had thought I announced it earlier, but it was tweeted out by Barrett Sports Media that today is the anniversary, so I guess that was it. And it was a very emotional day for me. But now, I mean, I had a lot of great memories from 11 plus years on the Fan, and I miss seeing some of the guys a lot, but I don't miss doing a 5-hour show. I'll tell you that. Chufu says, Colorado native living in Ohio, why are the Rockies so trash compared to the other Denver franchises? They have never figured out how to put together a pitching staff. That franchise has been around now, 30 years? I can't remember when they started now. And they have never been able to figure out how to put together a pitching staff. And the team is, they blew it up with Arenado and Trevor Story a few years ago. And now they're just awful. I was asking Jim Duquette about, who's the worst team in baseball. And we talked about the Rockies being in the mix with Oakland. He said he thinks Washington's going to be a little better. I don't think they're good. And he mentioned the White Sox. But the Rockies, I mean, their pitching staff is hideous. They don't have one pitcher I like. Their number one starter is, oh my God, Kyle Freeland. And he's like a fourth starter. And they've just never been able – I know it's hard to pitch there. I get it. But you got to have a plan. They've never had a plan when it comes to pitching. Never thought I'd be talking about the Rockies. But there you go. Dre Old School, my man, the Bull. Hello, Dre. I appreciate it. He says, also, I hope Chubb is here for his entire career. I think we all feel that way. Seeing Nick Chubb in another uniform would be beyond depressing. I don't think that's going to at least not this year. I hope that the Browns and Nick Chubb can figure out a contract structure. Now, maybe he plays out this year. We've talked a lot about him being gone maybe this year, which I don't think would happen, but he is a free agent at the end of this year. So maybe they'll wait to work something out after the year. I don't know what they're going to do with his contract. It is a big cap hit this year. They probably want to restructure that to some degree. It'll be interesting eventually with Nick Chubb if they keep his contract as is, which seems unlikely, just restructure or renegotiate, ask him to take a pay cut, which with the money for the running backs going up this year seems less likely than it did a month ago. Or if they try to extend him or if they wait a year, it'd be interesting. There's so much emotional tie-in to Nick Chubb. It would, again, the idea of him in another uniform would just freak people out. And I don't think none of us want to see that happen. I just think that would be just the worst. Mustafa tweets, Bull, love the work you do. Big fan of you, even though I'm a diehard Texans fan. Wow. I think Mustafa's been here before. I appreciate that, man, even though you're a Texans fan. My man Darren Smith in Kansas City, who covers the Chiefs, listens to us all the time here in Cleveland, and we appreciate the love. Man, the Texans, good time to be a Texans fan. What a turnaround. Quarterback is just awesome. You got two good wide receivers in Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I don't love the idea of extending Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon played for the Bengals for a long time. Obviously, I like Joe. He's turned his career around both on and off the field. And he's still a solid back. I just don't know why they extended him. But, man, the Texans, that's a good team. They're going to be in the mix to win the AFC as long as there's not a sophomore slump from C.J. Stroud. Okay, what's next? We got Roger Dodger. Love your show, Bull. Go Browns. As Monzo puts in the, if you're in this chat room, I'm assuming you already are a subscriber to the podcast, but if you're not, please go to YouTube where you are listening right now and click the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. It means a lot. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell their friends and family. Anthony, any thoughts on Jerry Jeudy going after Mark Schlereth on X? Listen, Mark Schlereth killed him. He wants to go back at him. It's up to him. I don't think it's a great idea. I would, I've tried when people hate on me, and obviously Jerry Jeudy's getting way more hate on Twitter than I am, but I've kind of stopped responding. Now, I did mention a hate tweet to me on UCSS earlier because some guy said that I got fired from the Fan, which is untrue. I quit. And so I responded to that. But generally, I have learned over the last couple of years that if somebody sends me a hate tweet, I don't respond to it because there's no point. They're trying to get a rise out of you. Now, in this case, I don't think Schlereth was trying to get a rise out of him. And Schlereth gave his honest opinion. Jerry Jeudy can shut up Schlereth by playing great in Cleveland. Now, I'm pretty sure Mark went on one of the local radio shows and talked about, hey, listen, I think the guy's got talent. I didn't kill him the whole time. He killed him in the video, and I get it. He's a Broncos guy. If you're a Broncos guy, you're going to kill him. Just like me and others crap on Baker or whoever, when a Browns player leaves and it ends ugly, you don't feel good about that. They drafted him in the first round. He was a major disappointment in Denver. So I don't blame Denver guys for being angry about it. Doesn't mean we have to hate him, and it doesn't mean he couldn't turn it around here. Doc tweets, Bull, congrats on your indie show. Didn't know you had this until today. And he's subscribed. Thank you, Dr. Ole. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been doing this podcast for about a year. We've been doing live shows for a few months. And we're going to do this every Thursday and all other recorded podcasts during the week as well. David sends a message and says, what do you think about Ohtani and his interpreter? So obviously we need more information in this situation, but this is not good for baseball. What I've read about the story so far, they're saying Ohtani's camp is saying that his interpreter basically stole his money and got involved with a bookie in California. For some reason, California does not have legal gambling. Let's go, California. Get with the program. But so involved with illegal. What I don't understand is I don't understand how his interpreter would have access to his money. That doesn't make much sense. There's got to be more information. I will say this. If it turns out that this is Ohtani involved in this situation, this is a disaster. He's got to be banned from baseball if that's the case. And we're a long way from that happening, but I know there's going to be a lot of accusation of the league covering this up. But if Ohtani is involved personally, and it just doesn't look great because how did this guy get his money? It's a disaster for the game. Disaster. Your biggest star would be awful. Jameson Hardy, Slappy McSuckerface. I don't know if that's for me or whoever. Dogecoin McGriblets. Jameson says, didn't like you when UCSS first started. Didn't want a Bengals fan discussing the Browns at all, but you've really grown on me. I can tell you're a genuine guy, and I respect you a lot of your opinions now. Thank you, James. I'm surprised you hadn't heard me on the radio for 11 years before UCSS. I call it like I see it, man. I know it's bizarre to be a Bengals fan and still want the Browns to do well. I can't really make that make sense for you. I can't, but I do. It doesn't really make sense to me either, but I do. Part of it is just good for business. My job is important to me, and it's better for my job if the Browns are successful. And I've lived here a long time now, and most of my friends here all my friends here are Browns fans. So I want the team to do well. Andrew sends a message. And by the way, you got just a couple more minutes to try to jump in. If you want to jump in, again, I tweeted out a link about 25 minutes ago. It was the last tweet I sent. Click the link. You could jump on either with video or audio and with just audio or audio and video. Andrew sends a message. What's going on, Bull? Do you think the Toronto Argos have a chance this year? Monzo, is that a hockey team? I don't know. It's I think the Toronto Argos are the Canadian Football League, I believe, right? Yeah, CFL. I have no idea. Andrew, I apologize, but I know nothing about the CFL. I knew that the Toronto Argos were a team in the CFL, but I have no clue if they're any good. I have no clue if they have a chance to win. As far as I know, I couldn't name one player on the team or in the league for that matter. Redheaded Stepchild says, I said a year ago you would become a Browns fan. I like the emojis. I am rooting for the Browns, yes. Anthony sends a message. I love how you call it like you see it, even when I disagree. I'm just glad you call it like you see it. Also love how you are pretty much always not biased. I try to be. I try not to be biased. I appreciate that, Anthony. Some people get mad because sometimes I'm going to say bad things about the Browns. Because when I'm honest, I can't like everything they do. People got mad when I said I didn't love the Jerry Jeudy extension. Well, I didn't hear from those same people when I said I liked pretty much every move the Browns have made besides that this offseason. But I'm not going to like – if I liked everything, what would be the point? If I liked every single thing, if I think everything the Browns did was good, I wouldn't want to listen to anybody that did that because you're not being honest. Joel Ward, Bull is the most relatable guy on UCSS. It's refreshing to hear realistic but boring, but not boring. Unbiased sports take. Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. I think most of the guys are relatable on the show. Monzo sends a message. Will Mika Zibanejad score tonight? I think he just put that name up there because he knew I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. I'm not even sure if that's a real hockey player, but I got it right. He's a real player. I'm going to say he definitely scores tonight. I'll say he scores 2 goals for the Hartford Whalers tonight. I know they're not a team anymore. Razor Jacket. I wonder if he's related to Razor Ramon. Bull, what should the Browns do with their first pick in the draft? Best player available, a specific position. Razor, I'm always for best player available. The only exception being quarterback could alter what I do. But the Browns are not going to draft a quarterback. And wherever they make their first pick, whether that ends up being at 58 or whatever it is now, or they move up or down, they should take the best player available. And then, a position of need would be a tiebreaker. If you have 2 guys equally graded and one's a running back and one's a wide receiver, well, I'm taking the wide receiver. If one's a defensive, one's a corner, and one's a defensive tackle, I'm taking the defensive tackle because not that the Browns have a needed defensive tackle, but they have a lot of old defensive tackles, and I'd rather get some young guys in there. Joel says, love the whole group on UCSS, mixture of personalities. Thank you, Joel. I do too. Redhead stepchild, hashtag David Njoku. Jameson, how many brackets did you fill out? 1. I have UConn winning it all. Very bold prediction by me. Tim says, Bull, you definitely grew on me. Pause. Well done, Tim. Since you started UCSS, now I like your takes because you were honest to keep it real. Thank you. Michael Hill, Panthers fan here. Wow. Been watching UCSS since week 1 of 2022. I do enjoy the banter between you guys. I think Deontay Foreman will be good. Deontay Foreman, he says, go Heels. Deontay Foreman was great, and Michael would know because his best year was for the Panthers in 2022. Last year, didn't play as much for the Bears and wasn't as effective. But with Carolina in 2022, he was very good, and his running back coach was Deuce Staley, who is now the Browns running back coach. Andrew, Bull, you're unbiased and have realistic takes. Of course, they like to hate on you. Fair, Andrew, and thank you. All right. One last check of the scores. Let's see where we're up to here. It's a final. You probably know it already, but Michigan State beat Mississippi State by 15. They're the first winner of the tourney, so they'll move it along. BYU has made a big comeback against Duquesne. They're now down only 3, 52-49 with 7:41 to go in the second half. Akron did not end the first half well. They trailed the Creighton Blue Jays 39-33 at halftime. And Long Beach State and Arizona tied at 22, 7 minutes to go in the first half. Joel, we need some Adam the Bull merch. Why is this not a thing? Yeah, G Bull. We have UCSS merch. We have G Bull merch. Earl's coming out with some merch. I don't know. Maybe I will. It's not my thing, but maybe I will. Like everything 4X or bigger. Redheaded Stepchild agrees with Andrew. Thank you. The Only in Cleveland channel. Bull, I have a podcast. Would you ever come on as a guest? Send me a message on Twitter. I'll see what I can do. Michael says, hey, just started watching UCSS from Florida. Family is from Warren, Ohio. Love the show overall. Felt good all days. My dad and I watching Bruce Drennan. And you watching the live podcast as well. We are live and cooking. All right, that's it for me today. Thanks for those who joined and asked the questions. Next time, hopefully we'll get some people to join on camera. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks to Monzo and Max for producing. I'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Enjoy the games today. See ya.